Welcome to the big show, the first ever episode of our podcast, Kamloops This Week This. That's the name. We taped this one on May 29th, 2015, and right off the bat, we're going to talk about why we're doing this. We're also going to talk to reporter Jessica Wallace about her three-part series on the Kamloops Food Bank, and we're going to hold Jessica Klymchuk's feet to the fire and investigate her ability to sustain life in the newsroom. And oh yeah, we're going to talk about fake boobs. I am your host, Marty Hastings, and our first ever guest is editor Chris Folds. So why are we doing this?
The podcast. The podcast is an idea that came up a few times, but we never got around to doing something like this for our website. And basically the idea for this is to give our readers and our website visitors, those who care to know more about what we do and how we do it and what happens behind the scenes, the story behind the story, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I think the first kind of main topic we're going to have today is Jessica Wallace did a story on the food bank. What do you know about how that started, the whole idea for it?
Yeah, a couple years ago, probably 3-4 years ago, we have newsroom meetings on a regular basis, twice a week, and something came up where we were talking about, using the food bank for a period of time to see what it's like in just a snapshot of time. At the time, the reporter Jeremy Deutsch, he wanted to. He was keen to do it, and he started doing it. But Jeremy has a voracious appetite, and he's known to be addicted to Burger King. So it didn't work that first week because he kept going off the plan. So that kind of went into the waste, fell by the wayside. And then this year, Jessica, it came up in conversation again, and Jessica Wallace, who is as keen a reporter as you will find, was really
more keen than Jeremy Deutsch.
Yes, way more keen than Jeremy Deutsch, and she's a vegetarian, so she wouldn't be, swayed by Burger King. So she was really keen on doing this, and we talked about it. And this is back in February, March. And we said, okay, we have to plan it. We have to lay down the ground rules. And then we said April 1st, from April 1st to April 30th, she was going to live a life of a person who just got laid off, who's got some financial issues, and needs to go to the food bank to augment her diet.
So we have published the series now. What's the feedback been like?
The feedback's been great. We ran a few letters. We got about a dozen letters from people who just say that it helped them see the food bank in a different light. Four of whom are actually went out and donated that they wouldn't have normally done, and they thought it was just eye-opening, interesting, creative, and more important, informative. Because not only did Jessica, go to the food bank and talk to the people, but then she did the flip side, and she went inside and she volunteered. For the food drive, she went into the food bank and talked to the people giving out the food.
I think there was also, just to be completely honest, there was also somebody who had feedback that they thought it was kind of exploitive in a way. Did you hear anything about that?
She received one call. There might be other people who feel this way, but we received one call on the record from a gentleman who uses a food bank, and he called Jessica and said that, well, he thought it was a little bit, not exploitive, but he thought that it was maybe a little disingenuous, because she's able to see 3 weeks down the road to see that doesn't have to live like this, and she really doesn't have to live like this. And but she talked to him, and I guess at the end he understood that she wasn't trying to, like we said in the preamble. I think I wrote the preamble. We're not trying to pretend or be what it's like to be a user of the food bank, but to get a sense, get a taste of what it's like to have to use that in just a small sliver.
Another topic, this came up this week in a newsroom meeting, was the band Warrant is coming to town, and there was kind of a back and forth between Jessica and the publicist, because the publicist was not happy with the fact that we wanted to use the lead singer's real name. He wanted to only be known as his stage name. So what do you think about that? It's an entertainment story. It's basically, it's an entertainment story. It's a puff piece story. So why do you think that we should have to use his real name, or should we just go with the stage name?
I don't think that any newspaper should I don't think any newspaper should do what a publicist dictates they should do. However, when you're doing stories on Eminem, you rarely see Marshall Mathers in the copy. It's Eminem, and when you talk about Madonna, you don't see her full name. So if the guy from Warrant or his publicist wishes for him to be called, Big Daddy Jake or whatever, then we can call him Big Daddy Jake. But just for the readers to know, the first reference is always going to be the guy's full name, unless he's really, really well known. But Warrant, I don't think, has been well known since they haven't been in the main spotlight since I was in high school.
Well, my opinion on this might anger the traditional school of journalism, but it's a puff piece, an entertainment puff piece about a band that probably doesn't even warrant a story, in my opinion. And who cares if he wants to be called Joe Blow instead? It's not like it's a hard news story, so that's my opinion on it. I understand that journalistic integrity and all that stuff, but it's a puff piece entertainment story. And if he wants to be called Joe Blow or whatever, that's fine. Last topic. You are a fan, I believe, of newsroom pets. I know you've been an advocate for cats in the past. We have a new fish in the newsroom that supposedly is being taken care of by Jessica Klymchuk. Do you think she's capable of keeping this fish alive?
She's pretty young. Jessica just turned 18 last week, so she's pretty young. I'm not sure. I guess it's a good testing ground for if she wants to have children later.
Well, there's already been a testing ground. It was a plant that is dying. It's brown, pretty much. So.
Yeah, I think she thought that was a fake plant, but no. Hopefully she doesn't think it's a fake fish. But no, I think it's looking good. We do need a cat. On that note, we should have a cat. Every newsroom worth of salt in the old days, in the Damon Runyon days, in the Jim Kearney days, they always had a cat.
Is this like a Cindy Hameline HR thing, no pets allowed type deal? We got people in the newsroom, we're all worried about scents and allergies. Get over it.
Yeah, our HR manager has a disturbingly obsessive nature about not having any cats in the newsroom, just so the readers know. But we do have a fish if they want to come in. Any reader who wants to come in and see our fish, as long as it still remains alive, is welcome to come in and see our fish.
All right, that's been the first ever guest, editor Chris Folds. Thank you very much. We are here with a very nervous Jessica Wallace. She doesn't need to be nervous, but why don't you just start by telling us who you are and what you do here at Kamloops This Week?
Well, like you said, I'm Jessica Wallace. I'm a reporter here, one of the rookies.
Yeah.
Been here for just over a year.
How do you like it here?
It's pretty okay. I like it. It's good.
So what do you do here?
I'd say a little bit of everything. Kind of help do with the layout. Some of the stories, entertainment stories, news when I can. Kamloops Query, the cuisine stuff. Try to do a column once in a while. Just a little bit of everything.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
You're the star of the show today because we are talking about your food bank series that you did. We're not going to ask you to rehash what happened story by story or piece by piece, but why don't you just give us an insight on what it was like to do that story?
Well, it was very involved. So this is probably the longest I've ever had to spend on a story. So just to give you a little bit of a background, it started in mid-March was kind of started where the planning started. So
and it is what date now?
Now it is almost the end of May.
Yep.
We're coming into June here. So the stories just ran, and the planning went into it very early on. And so it was very involved. It involved going to the food bank a couple times a week, planning all my meals, planning my budget, basically living the life of a client at the food bank.
Mm-hmm. What was the toughest part about that for you?
The toughest part was probably just little things that you wouldn't think about. So, for example, when you are completely switching around kind of the way that you live, like I know that I live a very privileged lifestyle, and we all do. We aren't living on these budgets that some people are living with, and a lot of the clients that are going to the food bank. So little things I started to notice about, like say some people that I live with, there would be some leftovers in the fridge, and then somebody would go to thaw something in from the freezer, and I would just automatically just think, why are they doing that? That's wrong. Like there's already food there. So just starting to notice little things that I had taken for granted for a long time. Like it just started wear on me.
Well, I thought it was interesting, some of the meals that you had to kind of piece together from what you were given at the food bank. What was the weirdest meal you had to eat, given the ingredients you had to work with?
The weirdest meal, I don't know that there were any weird meals. What I would say was that non-nutritional value was kind of one of the points that I came across. Like there was one time that I noticed I had eaten maybe 4 meals in a row that were strictly carbs, like say whether it was toast for breakfast, like a muffin or something for lunch, or like a sandwich, pasta with like just a basic tomato sauce or something that's not a lot of vegetable content there. So just noticing that I was taking in a lot of carbs because they were filling, they were quick or convenient, that kind of thing.
And now the series has been published. There's been a lot of feedback. Why don't we start with the positive feedback, because there's been a lot of it. What have you heard back about from the people who have read the stories?
Well, we've heard some different things. Some of the positive feedback was just about hearing from some of the profiles, some of the feedback on the people who use it, because it's not really an angle that you typically would hear in media, and that was kind of what our intention was too. Obviously, the diary and that kind of thing, my personal experience, people just haven't really seen it from that side before, so that was probably the most positive outcome, I'd say.
Well, there's been on Facebook, I've seen a few people who said that it kind of opened their eyes to what it's like to use the food bank. Also, there was somebody who I know you were kind of rattled about, had either emailed or called and said that they felt it was kind of exploitive. What happened there?
Somebody gave me a call, and they just told me that it was difficult for them to read because they had gone through, they're living through a situation like that, and that reading it in the newspaper, it was difficult because they knew that we were going to go back to kind of almost like our privileged lifestyle, like I said in the beginning there. And they actually called it something that really has stuck with me to this point, voyeur of the poor. And they said that nothing is going to change, and they sounded very hopeless. So it was difficult to listen to that after.
Well, does it make you feel to hear things like that?
It does make me feel guilty a little bit, because now I do go back to kind of living almost how I was before, even though I think differently now about it. I think, oh, I just spent money on this, or oh, I just ate until I was really full and I'm stuffed and I ate so much, and whereas before I would be rationing my food a little bit more, and it just makes me feel a little bit guilty.
Well, but something positive, it seems like, has come out of it. How has it changed your outlook on food and the way that you consume it?
I'm just thinking about it more, like in general. Not necessarily anything specific, but you don't want to ever waste things, that kind of thing. Like you just notice it a little bit more, and I don't know, it's just always top of mind.
Well, let's go to a little bit of a lighter subject matter. We have a new member of the newsroom, Kim Jong-un.
Supreme ruler of Chilltown.
Well, exactly. First of all, let's dial it back to Jessica Klymchuk's first attempt to sustain life in the newsroom. The plant. I don't know if that.
Oh, you're giving her a hard time.
Well, what do you think about her ability to sustain life?
Well, the bamboo was an interesting situation because it kind of seemed to be living a half-life. Part of it was thriving and growing and green, and the other part of it was, brown and limp and looked like it was going to fall off.
Brown and limp are probably the best ways to describe the old bamboo. It doesn't look too healthy to me. And now she's moved on. I kind of feel like a fish is more. I'm more worried about the fish than the plant. If the plant dies, I'm not going to be so upset. Save your emails there, eco lovers. But if the fish dies and it's Klymchuk's fault, I think we have to, look into it. So, are you worried about the safety of this fish?
Well, to be honest, it's been doing pretty okay so far.
So there's a couple different schools of thought here. I'm definitely anti-Klymchuk, and Andy seems to think that the fish is going to survive for a decent amount of time. How long do you think that the fish is going to survive for?
Well, we looked up some stats on these fish. Apparently they live for a year in captivity, whatever that means. Maybe that means it has to be at SeaWorld or something, I'm not sure. But I think that I'd give it a few months.
a few months. That seems like it's lower than the expected life expectancy, though. Wasn't it a longer life expectancy than that?
But that's like at SeaWorld, like I said, like a year.
The goldfish, Siamese fighting fish don't get put in the SeaWorld containers or they'd be destroyed by the killer whales in a half second. So I don't know. That sounds to me like pretty much a bad defense of Klymchuk, and I guess we'll end it on that. Actually, no, there's one more thing we're going to talk about. I've been asking people, another Wallace-related scenario we talked about was Warrant, the band Warrant. And the name of the lead singer, I guess, who it was, the publicist wanted us to go by the stage name, not the real name. So what happened with that whole interaction? Okay,
so it was the lead guitarist of Warrant.
Okay.
And we go through publicists, like you said, and I asked our associate editor, Dale Bass, what the protocol was, because I had found online that the name that they had given me was the stage name and not his real name. So Dale tells me that because we're a newspaper and we print facts and truth, that we would go with the real name and we would say who goes by. So this is what I told the publicist, that I needed the real name and the spelling, and then they basically went a little bit AWOL on me. They said, does Slash go by his real name?
Well, what do you think about that? Is there some merit to that argument?
I'm in agreement with Dale, because we're not here to sell anything. We're not your publicist. We're not going to put your brand name. That's not our job. Our job is to write the truth. So we'll say they are known by that. That makes sense to me, because people won't maybe identify with the real name. But I think that we got to have them both.
I think that's what journalism school Marty kind of feels, that that's probably the right way to do it. But I can also see it, and I've been telling people from the other side that when it is an entertainment story, and who does it hurt, But it's a good argument to have.
Interesting,
Jessica.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, she was nervous. I think she's now gone almost 10 minutes, and she looks more comfortable now. She's a little bit sweaty from her current. What were you just doing, actually? Here's another thing. Weird things happen at KTW.
All the time.
So what were you just doing?
Jessica Klymchuk, another reporter here, and I...
We know who Klymchuk is.
Yeah. Went down to Riverside Park to try out this crazy new workout called, Kangoo jumping.
And what is it?
You have bouncy shoes on your feet that are probably about almost a foot high, and you do an aerobics class wearing them, jumping around like a kangaroo.
Well, it sounds ridiculous. Did it actually have some value to you?
Well, we did 10 minutes. The normal class is an hour long, and Jessica Klymchuk and I were just sweating. Like, I'm still sweating.
How many people were at the class?
There were just the two of us this time. It was just a little demo.
And then the instructor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Oh, definitely. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Jessica, and I'll get back to work.
Thank you.
This is kind of daunting with this intense mic stand in
front
of the face.
Check. Well, actually, why don't we start by your thoughts on the mic stand?
Well, I mean, this
move back from the mic.
So this New Balance box is it's nice. It's really really high quality thing here.
It's a fairly Bush League mic stand.
Yeah.
It's a cardboard box.
I didn't want to say it, but
laid sideways. Only the best here at Kamloops This Week. This is Adam Williams.
It's okay. It happens to everyone.
Where did that nickname come from?
Oh my God. So my first job in reporting was at the Kamloops Daily News, and basically it started off that my pay stubs would come in and they would say Andy Williams on them, so people in payroll actually thought my name was Andy, and then that kind of caught on with the rest of the newsroom, with people either seeing Andy on my pay stubs or
at the Daily News.
At the Daily News, yeah. They thought my name was actually Andy. So then, some people picked up on that, and it just kind of took off from there.
Which guy or girl at the Daily News was kind of the guy that kept it going, or the girl that kept it going the most?
That would be Mark Hunter.
Mark Hunter,
of course, sports reporter Mark Hunter.
We have a new member of the newsroom today.
Yeah.
Not today, but in the last couple of weeks, we got is it a goldfish?
It's a beta fish, a Japanese fighting fish, I believe.
Do we have a name for it?
I believe it's Kim Jong-un.
I thought he got blown up.
Supreme leader.
Who's the
Kim
one that got
Jong-un.
blown up?
The defense minister got blown up with an anti-aircraft gun.
We should name it after him, and this could be like the reincarnation.
Yeah.
Of the one that got blown up.
He came back as a fighting fish.
Well, this fish might not survive either.
Yeah.
Because
Nobody has faith in Klymchuk's ability to keep something living.
well, when you're 19 years old. But if you were to put estimate a lifespan on Kim Jong-un, what would you?
You know, I might be the only person in the newsroom that has faith in her ability to keep this thing full life expectancy, I think.
Okay, thanks a lot for joining us.
Anytime.
Tim Petruk, we're not going to be talking about Wallace's food bank story. We're going to be talking about a different story that Tim covered this week, which involves fake boobs. Welcome to the show, Tim.
Hey, Marty, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Welcome to the show. Give us some background on the story.
Okay, so yesterday, we're recording this on Friday. Yesterday, a woman pleaded guilty in Kamloops court to essentially stealing the identity of an 83-year-old man in order to get a boob job, liposuction, and a tummy tuck.
What was it like to cover this one?
I've never covered anything like this before, so it was interesting. She didn't look I heard about the story before actually seeing the woman, and she was in custody, so she was, she's in jail and there's no makeup in jail and everything, but she definitely didn't look how I thought she would look. But yeah, it's an interesting story.
How did she conduct herself in court?
Well, just from hearing the circumstances of the case, she's a pretty charismatic person and she's kind of a con artist. So when she spoke in court, she spoke well and she was thoughtful, and I mean, it was easy to see how she would be able to swindle someone.
What was her story? Didn't she have a story that she didn't do it?
So she said when the cops first started questioning her, she was initially able to convince the investigator that she was also a victim of identity theft because her name appeared alongside this elderly man's name on a loan. But once the cops spoke to the doctor who actually performed the surgery, he, was able to tell them that was actually Brandy Bloor. The woman was.
We forgot to even actually say her name.
Her name is Brandy Bloor. It's definitely a weird one, but it's the kind of thing that seems to happen in Kamloops.
Well, what about that? This is not really a quiet town. We think it would be a quiet town, but how often do you get weird stories like this covering? Because you cover courts a lot. How often do you kind of come across these weird stories?
Often, and I'm not sure what the explanation is. I've heard some people say maybe it's because of the location of Kamloops, kind of at an intersection of highways, and it brings in weirdos. I don't know, but there are definitely strange things that happen here. The strangest that comes to mind for me is, well, just this week, Cam Fordham's wrote a story about a lady walking down an alley in downtown and finding a dead bear wrapped in a shower curtain.
Yeah. And a deer ran into the shark club yesterday.
Yeah. The weirdest thing that I've ever written, I think, was probably 3 or 4 years ago when a bear ate a murderer out near Knutsford, I think. So yeah, I don't know what it is about Kamloops, but there are definitely strange things that tend to happen here.
What about Brandy Bloor? Did the surgeon do a good job, or?
I think it's still under peer review at this point, so we'll just wait and see what the doctors say.
Before we let you go, I'm just kind of holding a mini tribunal here about Jessica Klymchuk. I think she's about 17 or 18 years old and has decided to take a fish into her care here at the office. How do you feel about her ability to keep this thing breathing?
Well, she's an ambitious intern, but I thought the fish died yesterday.
Well, it's not moving very much. Well, I don't know. Chris seems to think that her inexperience in life might be an issue, and I kind of agree. She just moved out of Vernon, fresh out of high school, and got a job here. But I guess the jury's still out on Jessica. We'll have her on in a bit to defend herself. So thanks for stopping by, Tim.
Thanks, Marty.
We are here with the second Jessica Klymchuk, who's fairly more relaxed than the first Jessica that came on. Wallace, are you comfortable right now? You're comfortable being on the podcast?
Yeah, I'm good to go.
Why are you feeling so comfortable?
I guess it just must be you, Marty.
Must be
putting me at ease.
Yes. So you were just doing, you were just really sweaty, and you were doing this Kangoo thing. What can you tell us about the Kangoo workout?
Oh boy, first of all, I was not prepared to do a workout like that this morning, but it was really fun. Like, I mean, it's like rollerblades, right? But you're on a spring, and my first reaction was obviously like, how do you not fall off these things? It seems like you just like roll your ankle and just bail, but I don't know, they're not really, because then if you're like losing your balance, you kind of just step over. But running with them was really fun. Like, you're just like bouncing around.
Was Wallace like, who was better on them, you or Wallace?
I think Wallace was.
Yeah.
I kind of like, after bouncing on them for a little bit, I was like falling over, but it was hard.
Well, that's just one example of the many great things that happen here at KTW. Why don't you actually just give us the basic explanation of what you do here?
All right, I'm the sort of writer and coordinator for supplements and special sections, which is a long-winded way, I guess, of saying that I do all the extra things that come out in the paper. Vacation guide, bridal guide, monthly downtown section, some magazines we've done, so.
Is that why you got into journalism?
No, but no, I didn't. But it's pretty fun. I mean, I like being able to work with everyone in the office. I definitely know the sales team a bit better than some of the other people in editorial, but I enjoy it.
There are some of them that you want to know in sales, and some of them that you don't. I don't.
Oh,
I
Marty,
don't
no.
want to know most of them.
No.
I don't actually.
No.
I don't hang out with any of them. But let's get down to the brass tacks here. You read Wallace's Food Bank story. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I loved it. I mean, we obviously all watched her do that month of living off the food bank, which was interesting, but I didn't read any of it until it actually came out in the paper. So I was really excited to read it because I had no idea what she had written about. I hadn't read any of her diary or anything like that. So I really liked it. I mean, her focus on sort of the background story is that the food bank was interesting, and even just how it works, I think, was interesting.
I asked her about some of the negative feedback she got, and she said she felt guilty about a phone call that she got and somebody accused her of being voyeuristic. How often in your job have you came across kind of negative feedback that can maybe make you feel not so good?
That's a hard question. I think for me it's different because I don't tend, with the projects that I work on, I don't really work on stories that aren't necessarily going to rub people the wrong way, I guess, things that aren't as socially borderline, I guess you could say.
Has there been one time, even in journalism school or
Yeah.
working elsewhere, where
one time I wrote a story. I was doing a blog actually about tattooing, and I did profiles about different tattoo artists, and one of the artists at one point asked me to remove the profile I wrote about him, and I was really confused, and I was a student still, so I was really confused about it because I basically had just written what he told me. It was a profile. I wasn't even really critical, but in it he had sort of talked to me about how he started tattooing with like Indian ink and stuff like that, and he thought it reflected badly on his business, and he didn't want people to think that he was unprofessional or he didn't have proper training. So that was weird. It's weird to get sort of those reactions, especially I think with the food bank one. Jess was sort of anticipated that some people were not going to be comfortable with it.
Even though she did, though, she still heard it, and it still kind of affects her. And the fact that this stands out in your mind kind of says that were affected by it too. Let's get down to what I've been asking everybody about. You. And you, how old are you?
I just turned 23.
Yeah, I can tell. It's more like I think you're probably more like 19, 20.
Oh, whatever.
Whatever. Fresh out of Vernon.
Opposite.
And you've decided, in your immaturity, that you have the ability to sustain life. Now, it started with the bamboo.
Oh my goodness, Marty.
Defend yourself with the bamboo because it looks like it's dying.
No, the bamboo, for the record, the bamboo is very much alive. That thing has grown. It's like way higher than my computer. Like, I've had it for a year. It is alive and well.
We have our first lie ever on the podcast.
Oh, no, it is alive and well.
The bamboo is not higher than your computer. It's It's a half a foot tall, wilting.
No.
Brown and limp was another limp.
No, it's not.
So you move on from your first disaster with the bamboo, and then you're like, oh, well, let's get a fish, name it Kim Jong-un, and try to keep this fish alive. So what's the life expectancy for this fish?
I think 2 years. I think that it's 2 years.
In captivity?
Well, no. I read some places that it's 6 years in captivity, and other places 2 years in captivity. So I'm going to say like the 2 years mark is probably, the fishbowl life.
We are aiming for Kim Jong-un to be alive for 2 years.
Well, who knows? I don't know. I'm just hoping the best for him. I don't really know how old he is, or she. I don't actually know the gender either.
Well, okay. So that's an issue for me. You don't even know the gender of the thing. You just throw it in a bowl. Have you fed it lately?
Yes, I actually have fed it.
What have you been feeding it though?
I've been feeding it
Timbits?
No, the pellets that they gave me at the fish store. The ones that they were feeding it. It loves those things.
It does, eh?
Yeah.
Because you don't know the gender. Well, personally, I have a strong stance that this is animal cruelty, and you should be taken to task for your...
I don't really see... You know what? The fishbowl is the right size. It has, the right sort of environment. It's got pebbles in there. It's got 2 different plants. Like, I did everything right. I don't really understand.
If I was
Everyone's
your age,
up in arms about fish life, and it's going to be fine.
Yeah. If I was your age, I'd have the blinders on too at 18. I didn't have a clue. Well, it's been insightful. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up before we go here? What do you think about the whole podcast idea? Are we pumping our own tires? Is it a good idea?
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I love the idea. I'm personally sort of just getting into trying to listen to podcasts, and there's so many different ones out there, and I think trying to create our own is just a really fun and interesting thing to do. I think that there will be a lot of people in Kamloops who will want to listen to what we have to say, and maybe you don't know the people who are writing the stories, see in the paper, and maybe it might be an interesting way to get to know them.
If you could pick of our staff here, who do you think would be the most entertaining guest on a regular basis among our staff members?
The most entertaining
Guest.
No, okay.
The most entertaining desk would be Tim
No,
Petruk's.
I meant like who, what, like,
Tim Petruk's desk is a mess. This guy's a court reporter, and it's an absolute zoo by his desk.
We cleaned it this year.
Yeah, well, here's the thing though. It's a mess. We'll continue to be, but we're talking about the guest.
I know. Sorry, I thought you meant like, who? I don't know. I mean, Tim has he gets some interesting calls and stuff, so I feel like if that'll be stuff he'll talk about, that's pretty entertaining. I always find it interesting to hear some of the feedback he gets from people and stories he's done, but yeah. Andrea has some really good commentary on city council.
Well, Andrea is also, she's weird.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's currently, is she gone now already to some knitting convention?
Yeah, she's in Ohio.
Yeah. She's in Ohio at a knitting convention, and this isn't the first wacky trip she's been on. She already went to London to do, she makes the stories, she writes the stories that are on people's phones for a certain video game. She does the writing for a video game. That's all I know. She writes for a video game that goes onto a phone, and they had a big conference or something in London, England, and Andrea was a guest of honor there. So good for her. We'll talk to Andrea at another date. For now, we are done with Klymchuk. Her fish is probably done, and fish is so alive. It's been a decent start, I think, to the first ever episode of Kamloops This Week.